You've got some free time right now? Yeah, I can do that. What are you interested in? Just straight sex or well, it depends on what you want, honey. Okay, my rates are $65 for a half hour. Okay, I'll see you. Okay. Chicago, Milwaukee, New Bedford, Richmond, a lot of Richmond, Daytona Beach, Orlando. It's all over the country, you're all dealing with the same problem. And we're lucky to have one person assigned to human trafficking investigations because a lot of counties don't have that, a lot of agencies don't have that. You know, they're just working cases as they come in, whereas I could be a little bit more proactive because this is what I do all day, every day, and those are the type of cases I work. Right now, we're on the outskirts of Harrison Township and Vandalia and Butler Township, and those are, you know, communities where you wouldn't only suspect that that kind of stuff is going on. When I first heard of sex trafficking, I thought what I think most people think, and that's about the little girls in Thailand or someone in a foreign country or that very occasional person who is kidnapped and taken outside the country. The first time that I found out that sex trafficking was happening here in the United States and it was happening in this area, I think I was almost in just a little bit of disbelief. I didn't want to really think that it was happening because I think most people don't understand what it really is. I really first got energized about this when we found an 18-year-old girl sitting on a corner who was raped, beaten, and she's sitting in the corner crying for her mom. An 18-year-old kid, I said enough is enough. That's when I started our trafficking detective team. I went after Detective Dingy because I knew she's very passionate about people, very passionate about the community. She's very driven, and she's doing a good job, you know, trying to protect our young women in this community. During these internet prostitution stings, we're going to be doing this operation for several days, and we need to get some items for our location to stock it and to have snacks, little cabinets, that kind of thing. We're gonna need some condoms, some lubrication, because those are things that a real escort or internet prostitute would need, and we need to have those things there as props. A lot of preparation goes into the sting, trying to set it up, and what our hope is that we can catch not only Johns, we also want to stop prostitution, but we want to catch anyone that would be pimping out those girls. We want to get to the root of the problem if at all possible. I have to do a lot of research online, I have to use a lot of technology because that's where it's happening. So if I put in USA and I put in Ohio, a lot of these pictures, it's very obvious that the woman in the photographs is not taking the picture herself, someone's taking the picture for her. You know, when their backside is to you, they're not taking that photograph, so somebody's helping them do that. So are they willing? Are they being forced? Are they being coerced? I started off on the internet. I worked for a pimp. I didn't know that those still existed. I thought it was like this even bargain thing, but I worked for a pimp. I describe it as doing things that you don't want to do, even though yourself you justify that you're doing what you want to do. In the end, somebody has control over you. I did things that I would never have ever thought I would do. No, I didn't. I wasn't raised that way or anything. But sometimes you feel like your back's against the wall, or you've had, I'm gonna twist. I grew up in a pretty upper middle class family, probably more upper than middle. I grew up with a mom and a dad. I definitely was the typical high school cheerleader. I cheered my entire life. I ended up homecoming queen, student council secretary, like that was my high school journey to the public eye. I started, you know, dating this guy. He was a police officer in our community at the time. I was 15 when this started, he was 21. He kind of presented the idea to me of, you're gonna have sex with these people and they'll give me money and we'll split it. This is a business opportunity. I ended up trying drugs with a friend, and I realized how much I liked it. And he was like, well, I'm a cop, I know where to get more. I can get you what you want. And so I started using drugs, and eventually it was like I needed the drugs enough that it was kind of like, yeah, you're okay, I'll do it. I didn't realize how big it was gonna be. I think my daughter's story is probably typical. She was not raised in a home where drug use was acceptable. She was not raised in a home where parents partied. She was not raised in a home without adult supervision. She grew up in church. I still, to this day, can't understand how she went from my daughter that went to church to working in a brothel and being a heroin addict. I still don't understand how that happened. This is the way I remember her, that was at Kings Island. She was just a little thing, and that was the first time she rode a roller coaster. It was like the little Scooby-Doo, it's one of my favorite pictures of her. Oftentimes, law enforcement can create her own ad and see what happens, see what kind of interest we get. A lot of times, they'll ask me for a full-body picture or a picture of my boobs, which I don't, I'd only go so far with the stick. Sometimes they'll tell you right then what they are looking for, what they want you to do to them. What's your rate for an hour? What's your rate for BBBJ? To the bareback sex without a condom? You know, this weekend I was at a volleyball game. Luckily, I was sitting at the top of the bleachers, and John sent me a nude photograph of himself. You know, sitting with my husband and my best friend, and that pops up on my phone. Luckily, the other moms around me and parents around me didn't see that, but it would have been kind of embarrassing. And, you know, I don't want rumors, things spread about me. You know, I've been happily married for 20 years, so it's just awkward moments, and it's part of my job. I had a lot of interest all night long, and all morning I've had a few more dates booked. We're approaching the crossroads of 75 and 70, and so you can pretty much get wherever you want in the United States by these two interstate highways. This is a college town, and college students are also getting involved in the trade. They are hosting ads, and there's a site that young, usually female adults will use called Sugar Babies, and it's very, like younger college girls. And there's definitely no shortage of pretty young girls in college towns. So I ended up graduating high school, top of my class, and I got an offer to cheer at college, and I was like, this is my way out. This is it. I'm gonna move to college, everything's gonna be perfect. This is going to end, I'll just start over. It's gonna be a new life. So I went to college, and I was sadly mistaken that the trafficking just continued with me. Now it was new clients, a new territory, and it actually was probably a riskier situation because we didn't know these people. And a lot of my clients, like my biggest client was a church pastor of a mega church. There were other law enforcement officers, firefighters, lawyers, doctors, pastors. I mean, there is no profession that doesn't do this. I hate to say it, but we're known for having the cheapest heroin in the whole state. And when you have people that are addicted to drugs, they wind up doing things to maintain their drug use. They become very, very easy prey for sex traffickers. Alright, guys, I'm just gonna go through this PowerPoint, but I sent it to most of you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, 'cause I sent it late last night. Sergeant Abel is going to be the supervisor. Decoys, make sure you give the rest takedown signal loud enough so they can hear. If you see weapons or contraband, devise over there the wire. Oh, hey, let me grab some lube just in case. I'm gonna put the lubricant in the other room, so that'll be my sign. I'll try to get up and leave the room. Decoys, remember to let the suspect bring up either money or the sex act first. I've got the code sections on here for solicitation, promoting criminal tools, and then compelling. Anybody got any questions? I'm a little nervous. I'm just going through my head like what I'm gonna say. I'm making sure that I know what I'm gonna do in a second. I think we're ready to go. I have a lot of confidence in my team. I don't want to let them down. And then you'll go all the way to the back, and there's a good place to park back there. And then I'll step out so you can see me, and I'll get your attention. What are you in? What are you driving? Music, music, hey, sheriff's office. Stand up, brother. Stand up. Yeah, put your hands on your back. Yep, I'm with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office Range Task Force. Alright, obviously there's some issues here, you wouldn't be sitting there in handcuffs with our words, right? Right. What brings you here? They tell, I do this about twice a year. My life gets kind of crazy sometimes because I'm so busy that I need an outlet. Are you married right now? Yes, sir. Obviously. Why? It doesn't live here. No, sir. Let's say you leave $150 on the counter for him. You realize that some of these women are being maybe trafficked and money's not going to that woman, it's going to somebody else. She might get $20 of that $150, right? Somebody else is getting the rest of that money, absolutely. From here, you'll go downtown if you're booked into the county jail. Thank you, sir. So we have a female coming, and she has a hat, and she is prostituting herself. Some of our male decoys have made contact with her and set up a date, so she should be coming, and let's see how that goes. Music, sheriff's office. You can leave that on. Throw that back, okay? Throw that on. Explain to me what's going on today. Music, well, how much was we gonna get for this today? $50. So they sent it over to come get you and then bring it? And they were innocently with her? Has he ever threatened you, told you better not rip them off or anything like that? Are you scared of him? I mean, you scared across him. What would happen if you didn't give him his $50? What happened? You know, we took her into custody, and I think she's being trafficked, but she didn't want to admit that to me. She had admitted that she'd been, abused as a child. Everything that she said was lying. What trafficking victim? But she didn't limit. Music, right. I've got some free time right now. Yeah, I can do that. What are you interested in? A half hour? Just straight sex or, well, it depends on what you want, honey. Okay, I'll see you. Music, alright, sure, so I'll just take your hand out of your pocket, brother. Turn around, put chains behind your back. Appreciate that, man. No, you got a second person? Yep. Just so you know, right now you're being detained, okay? Just for, say people. Yeah, searches with the sheriff's office. Obviously, we're doing a quote-unquote prostitution sting today. Huh? Can I smell some? I think I'm gonna throw up. Throw up? Yeah, I'm sorry. That's alright. Here with the sheriff's office prostitution sting, in light of the situation, the biggest reason we're here is for human trafficking. Any questions for us from about what happened to me? I suppose I'll find out. Alright, when you'll be given a bond, and then it will watch, you'll have the ability to post bond. You have a chance to make your phone call, even. I'm going to jail. Time that will be up to the other detective, but there's a good chance, this is gonna blow my life up already, and I just don't need that, really. I mean, I need to tell you. I'm just a fucking goof, that little suthy here going to work acting stupid. A lapse in judgment can blow your life up, and I worked very hard for a long number of years to have just an average life. I did feel a little sorry for him, but then I thought about his wife and how she would feel about him doing that, and then I wasn't as sorry for him. And also the fact that he's just making our problem harder to combat because he's throwing money at it and encouraging these women to sell themselves or men who are pimping them to sell them, that makes me feel less sorry for him. As you can see, the men that are frequenting prostitutes in this area cross every socio-economic boundary. We've got all ages, we've got all races. We've got men that have probably little means, we have men that have great means. And so, one of the gentlemen today showed up in a Mercedes, so hopefully by publicizing what happened in the last few days, by putting these, I hate to say it, but putting their faces out there in the media, and that's what they got caught doing. I think that it does send a clear message that this is not okay, it is illegal, and they shouldn't be doing it. I went to the John School 2 years ago for attempting to solicit, it actually changed my life forever. The John Education Program is to educate individuals charged with soliciting for prostitution about the consequences of their actions. It's not really meant to solve all their problems and help them with their problems, but to make them aware of the consequences of their actions, to show them that this is not a victimless crime and that this really does have an impact on themselves that they don't realize, and on others as well. I didn't even know about human trafficking before John School. I just thought it was basically people who were doing it to make money, that's me. I didn't think it was them being forced into it. But after going through John School, learning that, it basically broke my heart, and I wanted to do whatever I could to help make my mistake into something positive. Immediately after, I got involved with them and have been a part of that ever since. As long as there's a demand, there's always gonna be a supply. And my point in trying to teach them is that law enforcement is going after the demand more to try to have an impact on the supply. CATCH stands for Changing Actions to Change Habits. Back in 2007 and 2008, we started taking a look at the revolving door crime of prostitution. Yes, ladies, get out, come right back. Matter of fact, 80% of women arrested for prostitution or other sex crimes in America come back, they recidivate, and it comes through in my courtroom. So I decided to try to figure it out. The overlap between human trafficking and prostitution is almost universal. We have statistics that say 92% of women who are in prostitution are also human trafficking victims. Before I came into catch court, I blamed myself for it, like I've got myself into that situation. And yeah, it took me a while to believe that I was a victim. I got picked up by Vice, and I tried to run, and I think, just sitting in that jail cell knowing I was pregnant, I don't know whoever fathered this child, and, what to tell her when she's older. I just kept thinking about, there's no way I can stay in my addiction and stay out there and have a child. Catch Court is a 2-year intensive probation model, and only people who sign up voluntarily. We don't force anyone into this restorative court. Once we get them in Catch Court, they have residential treatment, which means we control where they live and who they see and who they talk to, whether they have access to social media. Almost everything about their life is controlled until they can learn how to have healthy and safe relationships. They come to court every week. Normally, a judge doesn't see you if you're on probation unless you're messing up. Now I see them every week, and I check in with them, and I see their progress through the notes, and I get to interact with them. I think they like that. I think they like the fact that a judge takes an interest in their life and their well-being. We have what we call a trauma-competent courtroom now. Instead of looking at someone and saying, "What's wrong with you?" which is the way I was trained, I look at someone and say, I wonder what happened to you. I've been through so much in the last 30 years, and I would have expected my whole entire addiction to wear out of juvie. And, the whole catch court has kept me together. If it wasn't for them, over a year ago I had my third son, and by then I'd been in addiction and prostitution for about 5 years. I wanted out, but there's not a lot of help. I guess they give you a list of people to call, and but I don't know anyone right now. All young women, and maybe all women, are at risk to be taken advantage of by some slick older men who they fall in love with, and then they fall on hard times, and then he requires the woman to help the family out by doing certain things for money. But with heroin, you start to take the average girl in any high school in America, and she gets hooked on an opioid, and then it's very quickly from friendship and some drugs to, hey, you owe me, and you need to pay this back. Anytime you use that fear, intimidation, or even a drug addiction to get a woman to do something, that is enough coercion to put you as a human trafficker. It's really nice to know today that I am surrounded by people who want me to do better and people who support me. I think a lot of people look down on addicts and think, like when I first got pregnant, some of my family was like, oh, the poor baby, and it really hurt my feelings. Just because I'm an addict doesn't mean that, I'm a bad mom. I know I've always wanted to help others, and I always have, I just did it kind of in the wrong way. So I would let myself go to help somebody else, and you can't really help others if you don't help yourself. So when I got to the point where I could, I enrolled at Clark State. I'm in my second semester. I'm going for social services technology to get my chemical dependency counseling certificate to go in the field of drug and alcohol, and I'm super excited, super excited. Women helping women has been one of the most consistent ways for a woman to succeed in history. It's as if someone put it, it's like being on the Titanic. If you were on the Titanic together, you understand what you went through, and these ladies have all been through the same thing. They can talk to each other in a way that they understand. It's really neat to watch. I've always said that I'll never get married, and I'll never have children, and both of those things have happened. And I think a lot of people question, well, how are you ever intimate again? How do you trust a man again? And it wasn't easy. There's still times that he'll walk up behind me and just put his arm on my shoulder, and I have a complete meltdown. I feel like a lot of people feel like this is something that you have to deal with on your own, and you can't. There's a community of survivors that will walk alongside you. I think I just want her to grow up and know that there is some evil in the world, but then again, that people who, walk through the darkness can see the light again.